So when I got here, people were saying things like, "Oh, you know, we want to get language going in school. We want to get culture in the school." I asked them what that meant. What does language, what does culture in the school mean for Woorabinda, considering the complexity of the community? Before I came to Woorabinda, I knew about a bit about the history of Woorabinda. I knew about the fact that there are a number of different groups that were moved into Woorabinda historically under the Act. We had a series of meetings and discussions around what it was, what it is, and what it would look like if we were to do language in Woorabinda, traditional language. And throughout a number of discussions and meetings, we came up with the idea that if we did language stuff, then there'd be culture involved in it, because I knew there were two traditional owner groups, and I knew that there were 52 different languages or thereabouts. So there were things that need to be nutted out around if we were to use a language in the community, what would that language be? If we were to use languages, what languages would they be? So it was fairly complex, and and that's why I pulled together a few meetings of the community to discuss what it was that they were actually wanting and what their expectation of me as a principal would be. The community basically said to show respect for the traditional owners of this country where Woorabinda is, that the languages in the school that should be taught should be the two local languages, Gunjaloo and Wodja. The traditional owner groups then said that they were happy with that, but they were also happy to support other language groups within the community, bringing their languages in and developing their own languages, so they were supportive of that. We then went into, okay, where do we get the language from and all that sort of stuff. So that's where we sort of decided to go with it. And we decided that we would develop a language committee and as part of the language committee, a protocols committee, to talk about issues of protocol that came up throughout the process, so that we could just convene the committee. If there was an issue that came up, we convene the committee and we talk about those issues and work out a way forward. So that's sort of what we did. I engaged some local elders to come in, and they actually did some around looking at family histories and all that, and that was sort of in the initial stages. So they were looking at the family histories and all that. We got there was a language meeting in Brisbane at State Library, and we sent a couple of people from the school, local Indigenous people, and about 4 or 5 people from the community, to go to Brisbane to the State Library to do some research around language. And throughout the period between 2010 and probably even now, we've had numbers of meetings and numbers of workshops. So we had to set some protocols around attendance at meetings, and we had to acknowledge that a lot of people can't always turn up to meetings, and that was fair enough. But what we also had to help people to understand is that this process is a process that's going to be an ongoing process, and we didn't want the process to slow down or be stopped at any particular stage, because we just knew it had to be done. It's just too important. The protocol we set up was that if people could engage with the process in whatever way they chose. For example, if they missed a few meetings, when they came to the next meeting, they had to accept that where we were at in terms of our decision-making processes was where we were at. So we had to set that up so that we didn't have people coming in halfway through the process and disagreeing with the process and then hijacking it. Over the period of time between 2010 and the end of 2011, we had a number of meetings, and the crunch came at the end of 2011 because we had to start a program in 2012. We got John Waterton at the time, who was working with us, to get out in the community and get as much of some words, as many words and as much of the language as we could so that we could start the program. We started the program in 2012 with John Waterton as as the person teaching the words to the kids, and we taught all the kids. So it was taught right across the school, and we felt that that was appropriate. We teach all across the school, and then as we were going along, we were going to be able to develop it. People, linguists from different parts of Australia who have come and worked with us and brought in language that's been researched. Gavin Breen brought a whole heap of language, and he gave us the language that he's been collecting over many years. And we've had people from New South Wales come up, and they shared some ways of some pedagogy and how to teach the language. John and our teacher aides, so we've been trying to get our teacher aides involved in it so that they can keep it sustainable. A linguist come up, Margaret Florey, who's been engaged with us for a number of years now, come up and give us some more, give John and now Steve Kemp, who's newly this year come into the program, has been a great addition to the program, and Steve's a traditional owner, one of the traditional owners. So he's been now working with John to further developing the program. Margaret came and gave them some tips on pedagogy and how to best teach the language, and that's been really valuable. And I think just to continue to develop the program, I mean, we've had a very valuable person in John Waterton working within the program. We've now been able to pick up a local traditional owner who's has a strong cultural background and lots of knowledge about language through Steve and his dad Tim. We've got lots of people who are supporting us right across the country, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people who can see the value of these sorts of programs. I just really, in terms of the future, I wanted to make sure that by getting as many community members involved in the program, it's a sustainable program over longer periods of time, and it doesn't hinge on individuals to keep it operating. It is a community-owned project. So, you know, when I'm not principal at Warrabinda at state school anymore, it won't matter a difference. The community will pick it up and they will run with it, and they'll keep it, and it'll just get better and better every year. So.